Fine. Look at the 14th. Disaster preparedness is the first step in any disaster management process. Explain how hazard zonation mapping will help in disaster mitigation in case of landslides. So a very similar question we have done. Okay. We have done a very similar question with regard to the zonation mapping of earthquakes. Same pattern, same template, and same style you should write for landslides. Okay. Just try it for 2 minutes. Yeah. So most of you have got the framework, right? It's basically, writing about the preparedness, and then having particular zonation for the, disaster mitigation, especially for the landslides. So the template of the answer will be same as like that of earthquakes, but then you have to now write the answer with regard to the landslides. So though both are natural disasters to great extent, there is slight difference between earthquakes and landslides, because landslides can be sometimes even man-made. We all know that, right? So especially the hilly terrains, while some types of landslides are natural, some landslides are man-made also. So try to give the difference and how the vulnerable are there, especially landslides in areas which are having fragile ecosystems, and then which are in the verge of, which are on the boundary plates of the tectonic activity. All those areas are more prone to landslides, and that is what we need to write. And then similar to what you have done for earthquakes, you have to draw an India map and try to give the zonation of landslides. Okay. So with regard to disasters, start inculcating this particular habit of drawing India map and then trying to mark the vulnerable areas with regard to the disasters. Okay, so for this particular question, okay, we have to concentrate on the preparedness part. So what is the preparedness of for a disaster is having hazard, risk, vulnerability and assessment. Okay, and then for this particular zonation, you need to have a proper plan for mapping all these disaster prone areas. Okay, and then we need to have proper communication system. Especially the major drawback with regard to the landslides is the loss in the communication system. So having proper communication system in place will help you in reaching out to people who are impacted with these landslides. Okay, and then when you have this particular approach, the next important thing is the zonation mapping. How the zonation mapping? Basically, you can use the GIS systems. We were talking about the GIS system, right? So you can write about the GIS system, use of GIS system, and also how it can be used to map a certain place and immediately take action. So what happens is when you have the GIS mapping for each and every area which is impacted by a landslide, you will automatically be more cautious about, development in that area, or the footfall in that area, or the tourism in that area. So all these can be monitored. And then the second thing is the methodology which is being used for zonation should be oriented, or should be blended with the technology, latest technology, by using drones, okay, or the lidar. There is something called lidar. Okay, by using the lidar light, you can try to know which area is more prone to landslides. Okay, and also exact location of the particular prone areas to be mapped and communicate to the local government. Okay, so that, because ultimately the local government is the one which is responsible, they have to be known of the what is the exact location. We should try to boil down or zoom into the exact location. Okay, so when we identify the vulnerable areas, we can take immediate action with regard to the way the development can be planned in those areas. First thing. Secondly, how the locals can be involved in fighting that particular disaster. And then how, in case a disaster is striking in that particular area, what can be done to relocate or rehabilitate those people, having safe havens in the nearby vicinity. So all these can be planned. So you can have one more side heading saying that the measures in case there are landslides, and then you can have a capacity building. Basically, you can build capacity of that area so that the impact of landslides, or as a matter of fact, any disaster, is reduced to great extent. Okay, so all these particular policies or steps will help you in trying to mitigate these landslides to great extent. Not mitigate the landslides as such, mitigate the impact of landslides to great extent. Okay, and then you can also write about the man-made landslides, like artificially blocking the path of the river and creating dams. So creation of dams has led to a lot of landslides, and then too much of vehicular movement in the eco-fragile regions. All this will result in landslides. Then you can conclude saying that the need of the hour. See, for all the disasters, the conclusions can be on the same lines, irrespective of earthquake, landslides. So one advantage you will have is there will be only two questions maximum on disaster management. If you have solid introduction and proper conclusion, remaining all steps, you can try to integrate with that particular disaster and make a very good answer. Obviously, you need to draw the Indian map to have the overall awareness and inform the examiner that you are aware of what you are speaking about. And then you, in the landslides also, you can further bring the PMRR approach and the Sendai framework. All this can be incorporated, and then the landslides can be concluded. Okay, so that is about the 14th question. So who has written this? Navya. Yeah, we have spoken about it, like, again, you can further divide it. So, say structural and non-structural measures you can take. So by having proper, strengthened buildings, yes, you can further divide the measures into structural and non-structural, not an issue. Maybe even in the body, you can write differences between, measures to be taken. Navya, you have spent too much time in explaining what is disaster and disaster management. Not required. Okay, disaster preparedness, because you have to explain in the context of disaster preparedness with regard to the landslides. Okay, see, you have not yet come to the landslides. You have come after 1.5 page. You have come after 1.5 page. It has already consumed a significant amount of your space. You have to speak regarding the disaster preparedness of landslides. The focus should be on landslides and nothing else. Okay, you can mention 1 or 2 disasters, but you have taken too much time in coming to the disasters. Yeah, okay, so that is the thing. And hazard zonation, you could have written this. You could have drawn the diagram with regard to India's map. It would have been much more better. See, by the time you came to the last, you were crammed up even for conclusions. Your points are also not complete because you did not have enough time or space to actually write about landslides. Whatever you have written about landslides in this half page or 3/4 page is making sense, but then there is much beyond what we have spoken a lot on the measures that are missing. Hence, try to come to the core demand of the question as soon as possible. That's what I keep saying. Okay.